Bienvenidos a La Hora del Mitote. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. La Hora del Mitote is transmitted on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and on Channel 30 through Create TV. Thank you, Create TV. We invite you to participate by sending us your questions and comments on Facebook or on YouTube. And then, Blanca, do you mind giving us a little bit of a welcome to our area?
Thank you, and buenas tardes or noches, good afternoon, good evening. Before we get started, we just wanted to take a second to really recognize and acknowledge that most of us are guests on the unceded ancestral lands of Bay Area Indigenous peoples. The Indigenous peoples of the Bay Area, specifically Santa Clara County, included Tamian, Ramaytush, and Mutsun-speaking peoples, all of whom today are part of a number of different tribal communities that still live and thrive within Santa Clara County. And it is important that as continued guests, we recognize that we have a responsibility to be respectful towards their relatives, which include land, animals, plants within our area that we, where we live, where we continue to play, where we work, and the resources that we continue to use. So we just want to take that second to really acknowledge that part of our work as Teatro Visión is social justice and contributing to our communities, and that includes the native inhabitants of Santa Clara County.
Thank you so much, Blanca. Well, hello, everybody. Otra vez, bienvenidos. My name is Ivette Deltoro, and I'm the new managing director at Teatro Visión. And with me is Cristal and Blanca. Do you both want to introduce yourselves?
Yay, welcome Ivette. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here. I'm Cristal Cardenas, and I am going to become the president of the board in January. And yes, and I'm so happy to be here sharing space with you, Ivette and Blanca.
Oops, sorry, I'm playing with my mute microphone thinking me jiggy. Sorry about that. Once again, Blanca Sanchez. I will be the incoming vice president to the board of Teatro Visión. I've been on the board with Crystal. We actually joined at the same time. What is it, 3 years now? And so I'm to be here with you all tonight.
Yay! So once again, thank you to everyone who's watching, everyone who's with us right now. I guess we should talk a little bit about ourselves more than just we're part of Teatro Visión, but as everybody knows, I'm new. I'm very excited to be in this new position and really getting to know our Teatro Visión community. I've just been very touched by the warm welcome that I've had from the board and the rest of the staff, and I'm just really excited to continue the work that's already started. Let's see.
It's been really nice getting to know you, Eva. I think we've gotten to know you a little bit through our interactions so far, and I guess what we can do is like toss around just how we got to know Teatro Visión, how each of us came to know it, and maybe some historical facts about ourselves, because right now we're like faces on the screen to a lot of people. Yeah. So maybe we can just share with the community just who we are, and yeah, why don't you tell us, like, how did you come to know of Teatro Visión, Ivette?
I came to know Teatro Visión as a patron first. I heard about Teatro Visión like a while back, and I was just so busy and I hadn't been able to make it to any of the shows. But then before COVID happened, I was able to watch De Partera. I think it was the first time, or maybe the second time around, but it was just right before the pandemic hit. And I don't know, it was so beautiful. The show was fantastic. I had some friends that were in the show. And then I loved like the displays in the lobby, and it just felt like a place that I really wanted to be a part of and that I wanted to learn a lot more about. And then, of course, the shutdown happened, and so nobody was going anywhere. But that's the way that I learned about Teatro Visión.
I love De Partera. I mean, I love all the shows, but De Partera was very special. I loved that a lot. I came across Teatro Visión in a similar way to you. there's actually someone who really loves Teatro Visión and supports it to this day. His daughters have been in a lot of our shows. His name is Juan Gamboa, and he was my professor at San Jose State, and along with Professor Covarrubias. And I remember one day going to class, in my Mexican American Studies class, and they're like, okay, everyone, like, go see Macario. It's showing. It's so good. You have to go see it. And I was like, all right. And they're like, you'll get extra credit. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going. And so, but I went in with the intention of like, cool, it'll be a great show. I trust my professors and I trust that their recommendation is good. And so I didn't expect to have the impact that it had on me. For that show, I went with my dad and my little brother Angel, and it was just a remarkable experience to see people who looked like us on stage. And after I walked out of the venue, I was like, oh my gosh, like, we can do this? Like, what? My family didn't grow up seeing theater, and so it was pretty awesome to like get exposed to that. So later on, when I started working and just getting my footing in my career, I decided to come back. And I remember being part of a board matching night, and Peter Allen was there. He was recruiting people for the board, and I almost cried. I was like, I love Teatro Visión so much. And I ended up, getting an interview, and now I'm here today, and I love it. It's similar to what you said. Like, there's just this like energy that you get from being around Teatro Visión that's so special.
I think for me, similar to Crystal, I first came aware of Teatro Visión and was exposed to Teatro Visión as a patron, as a student, right? And once again, it's having that experience outside of what I knew to be theater based on my academic experience and just what I was exposed to, right? It was something that resonated, that I recognized and seemed familiar. And so I think for me, I've been involved in the local folklorico community here in San Jose for over 20 years. So I've always been involved in arts and music and, performance to one degree or another, but not necessarily directly in theater. And so I worked for many years in education. And when you work in education, anyone out there that works for education, you don't really have a lot of time, because it's job and a half and then the overtime that no one gets paid for, right? But it's great work. And I actually transitioned careers right when COVID started. I left education to go into the new space where I'm working. And one of the things I found out is, oh, I have all this free time now, right? So what am I going to do with it? And same as Crystal, I ended up enrolling in the Latino Leadership Academy because I knew about it. I just had never found the time. And now I'm in this new job. I have all this extra time. So I was like, time to do it. Right. And when we had the board match night, and that was when I got to reconnect with theater. And it was just such a nice nexus when I'm looking for organizations that I wanted to get involved with, that I wanted to support and really contribute to, that were doing work that was meaningful and that resonated with the things that I'm interested in. And with teatro, I think the beautiful thing about teatro is that, yes, it's entertainment, but it's entertainment right? There's that really cool nexus to how do we engage with the community to make sure that they're active participants in the creative process, right? So they're not just consuming theater, but they're part of that process. And how do we create those opportunities? Teatro Visión has always had a very close nexus to social justice. And so all of those were things that really resonated with me. And so when I heard they had openings on the board, it was like, sign me up, please. And so I was lucky enough that, they decided to let me, join them and get a chance to see if I could contribute to them. So I think it's that story. And I think I hear it a lot with people that connected with teatro, maybe lost touch at one point and then they reconnect again. So it's really this connected community that is very dynamic, and you got people coming in and out. But, even if it's from far away, there's always that nexus, that link to teatro, as such a cornerstone in our community.
Oh my gosh, hey Kevin. Kevin is one of our lead dancers from Macario. He was a dance captain. So
Oh, nice.
yeah. Blanca, I love how you described the community that Teatro Visión has, and I will say, like, with the changes in careers that I've had, roles that I've had, I've been in tech my entire career. it's different. It's a very different environment than it is to be part of the Teatro Visión like board and community. And so it does feel like whenever you know that feeling like after school when you would come home and your mommy or your grandma would be like, Mija, like get these unas tortillas or like come sit down and eat. Like whenever I come to anything Teatro Visión related, I feel like I'm coming home, which is like such a special feeling. And just the way that you described it made me think of that connection to it. Yeah.
I feel a similar way. I think there was something that you said, Cristal, that made me think about I whenever people ask about how I got involved with theater in the first place, because that's been my entire career is just theater. And I started primarily as an actor. And I can't really pinpoint when I decided I wanted to be in theater. I think I was like in middle school, and I think I was sitting in like my science class, and I just was like, I'm going to be an actor. But I didn't have access to it. I didn't know like where to go, or I hadn't seen a production. I'm not really sure where that just kind of came up, but I guess that bug just kind of like got me, and I tried to find avenues to get into theater. But it means so much to know how connected Teatro Visión is to the community and especially to the youth, because I see that and I'm like, I had no idea that that was available. And it's such important work that Teatro Visión is doing. And I always get choked up when I think about it. I it's so meaningful, and oh god, it's one of the things that really appealed to me about Teatro Visión is the dedication that we have to the community, to the youth productions, the youth involvement in many aspects of our programming, and also the fact that the social justice aspect. I think that is fantastic. It is such an amazing cause to have as like a core value, and God, I'm just so thrilled to be part of this.
Yay. Yeah. Well, I think everyone can tell we all really love Teatro Visión. Maybe we can share like one fact about ourselves or something that we really care about or something that we like to do in San Jose. And then maybe we could talk a little bit about more like what we're doing at Teatro Visión, what's coming up next, how
Yeah.
you all can be involved. I can share a passion of mine. One of the passions that I've always really had has been and I don't know, I think I got this from my time at San Jose State where I had this teacher, her name's Ruby Ramirez. Ruby, if you're watching this, I love you. But she would have us analyze films, and a lot of the films that we would watch were like the Guillermo del Toro or just a ton of different like Mexican, Latin American films. And so we would like sit there and study what type of costume design they had, what the accents were, what the music was, what kind of colors they would use in each of the scenes. And I really liked doing that as a part of my academic experience. But later on, once I graduated, I like keep doing that, and I love doing it. So I don't know if that'll mean I'll make a movie one day, but it's something that I really like doing. And in San Jose, honestly, hit up all the stops. Like just eat all the tacos, the tamales. There's a lot of really good places in the area.
Um, I got really into baking, especially during the shutdown. I always kind of knew that I really liked it. I like cooking and I enjoyed baking, the odd cake or cookies and things here and there. But I got sucked in by the sourdough trend, and I started my own starter and I named it. And I think it's still alive. It's just sleeping in my fridge. But I got really into it. And so I was teaching myself, how to make bread. And then I was experimenting with like, what else can I use my starter with? So I used it for like pie crusts and cookies and bread. Um, so I'm all into the bread. I'm all into sourdough. And I realized that it like makes me really happy. Like I go months without being able to do it, and I haven't done it in months. like maybe since like spring. And every time I go back to it, I'm like, oh, this makes me feel so nice. Like I could be so stressed and think I have no time for this. I have no time. And then as soon as I'm like mixing it all together and smelling it, I'm like, oh, this was good. This is relaxing. So that's one thing that I really love to do apart from theater in general. Um, I'm not sure why, but I just thought like in San Jose, I love that we have History Park. If anyone hasn't gone there, it is a really cool site. I love the light tower. I just really enjoy it. It's where I met my partner too. So it feels very special to me, and it's just such a cool place and a great organization too.
Awesome. I, as I mentioned, didn't have a lot of free time prior to COVID, and then transition jobs and COVID hit, and then had lots of free time, right? And so, one of the things that I did make time for, I guess, as I mentioned, I've been a dancer for many years, and COVID hits, and there's no more classes, right? So we kind of that was cut right off the bat. And so one of the things that I started doing was I started making my own tarima, so like dance platform, so I can continue to dance, at home. And then I made one for myself, and then I was like, well, let me make one for my sister, and then let me make one for my cuñada. And the next thing I know, I have like 6-7 different tarimas. I'm going to like Home Depot every other day to bring more wood back so I can make more tarimas. So I got into like a tarima making phase there at the beginning of COVID, but it was great because I was able to continue to practice and dance, and even though we were in isolation, I could do that by myself. We tried doing Zoom, and it was just not a good thing, but I was still able to do that. So I think over the last 2 years, I've really gotten a lot more into like reading and just avidly reading and consuming books, but which is great. I'm naturally an introvert, so I need that kind of like no contact to recharge. But I'm also really excited about the fact that we're starting to get back into in-person programming, and we're starting to reconnect with community, and honestly learning to interact with people and having that human to human interaction is the whole adventure right now as we're coming out of COVID, and and hopefully we'll come out of it completely, right? So I think for me, for example, I hadn't performed in a couple of years and haven't been able to join the Macario cast, out of like sheer chance and be back on stage. That was super exciting to me. And being able to do that, being able to see our youth actors who had, I think, completed the class virtually, but then were able to actually be in the play in person. That was fantastic. And to know that we're bringing back some of those classes for our youth that, I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and they're seeing students struggling with just basic human conversation and contact because we were all isolated, and we're all relearning how to be social beings. And, humans were social beings, but we were forced to like not be. And so I think for me, that's super exciting. And it was super rewarding to be able to re-engage in this space that, kind of was forced to step away from over the last 2 years.
I cannot have said it better. Interacting with people's heart. But I think we're slowly doing our best, and I'm so glad that you're mentioning the return to in-person classes. There's a lot of really great things we're going to share with you all, but we do want to just remind you that you can talk to us if you want to chat us. Put a comment in if you're on Facebook. I think you can do it on YouTube too. Leave us a comment, and we could see them come up, kind of like how we saw Kevin's earlier. So if you have any questions, we would love to hear them. Also, since we're wrapping up the year, we do have some goals with our finances. And so if you are able to, we would love to have you join us in supporting the organization. And we have the link right there if you are able to support us as we close out 2022. Oh my gosh, 2023 starting soon. I know, it's wild. But yeah, like Blanca mentioned, we have in-person theater classes that are coming back, and that's super exciting. We've brought back like in-person shows, like Macario was in person. And it was a big hit. A ton of people. Becoming Mar was in person. All the shows that we'll mention in a bit were in person, and because having both options available to our patrons is so important to us. We also have a virtual option available too. So we'll continue to make it accessible to anyone that would like to join us.
Yeah, and I don't know if you all saw the link that was there below. Intermediate classes are the sign up. There it is. Thank you, Jacob. The intermediate teatro classes, the sign up is in the link below. That's one of the wonderful things that we have that is coming next year. Thank you so much, Cristal, for bringing up the end of year donation. It is so important because we do have a lot of great things to share with everybody, but we could really use that support. And I'm going to go back to Macario in a second because both of you were in it and I got to watch it. I was very excited about that. But since we're talking about things that are coming up, the next thing that we have going on is a co-production with City Lights Theater Company. That's another downtown theater company, which I actually also work at. But we are co-producing the musical Miss You Like Hell. It is a very exciting thing for all of us because musicals are no joke. It's a really fun thing. And I've seen all of the reports. The rehearsals are going really well. And it's just such a great story. We're really excited to share it with everybody. So you can find more information as the link is just here. More information for that. You can already buy tickets. And we're going to share the story both at City Lights and at the Mexican Heritage Plaza. So whichever place works best for you, you can find the story there. Then we have the classes coming up, as we said before. And then we also have La Muerte Baila, which is coming up next October. I'm very excited. I have never seen it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I've heard nothing but good things from actors who were in it in the last production. It was hard for them to even explain it. They were just like, "It's just amazing. You have to watch it." And I was like, "Okay."
Experience.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. I'm also super excited for Don Quixote. I think when I first found out that we were doing a youth production for Don Quixote, I freaked out. I was like, "What?"
Thank you
So
for bringing that
awesome.
back. I skipped over Quixote. I was like, the classes go into Don Quixote. So that's also
Yeah.
really exciting. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, we're doing a lot. It's great because it's like kind of a little mix of everything where there's like, some adult and youth who are part of La Muerte Baila, and there's a youth focus with Don Quixote and classes. So, we'll have a very busy year, and we hope that you're all able to join us in some way, shape, or form. Cameos? Oh my goodness.
So, that's a good question, Kevin, because I wanted to bring it back to Macario, because if anybody doesn't know, these two lovely ladies were both in Macario, and I was a very lucky spectator. How was that experience for both of you?
Go ahead, Crystal. I'll let you start.
Are you sure? Okay. So I have loved musicals and shows for a long time. I've always wanted to be Roxy Hart or just like the diva on stage. Even though I am very introverted, like when you meet me in person, I can be very introverted. But so when I found out that we were doing Macario again, I remember I was in a board meeting or I think I was meeting with Rodrigo. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was Rodrigo and Lee and someone else. And he was like, I'm kind of looking for actors from, the community to be part of the show. And I was like, oh, you know what? You can put me in as a tree, or like if you need me to be a rock, I'll be a rock. Jokingly, but also seriously, because I was like, I've never acted before. I've never done any of that. I've always pretended to. But the moment I joined, I felt very supported. Like everything was supported. Everything felt so organized. One of the things I do for my full-time career is I do learning and development. And the entire experience of going through Macario felt like a learning and development experience, where like you had people who were well versed in what they were doing, who knew the craft like the back of their hand and were willing to show it and teach it to anyone. And so I thought that was something that was special because I think knowledge should be shared. And so I did feel that as part of Macario. And then I think on a more spiritual level, I feel like it just brought so much peace into my life to be part of a community that really cared about one another and to put on a show that so many people loved. Like we had full houses pretty much every night. So it was really cool to be part of that. I was so chillona like the last day. I was like, oh my God, why is it ending? It's okay. Everyone else cried too. But it was a really awesome experience. I loved it. And Blanca was amazing. Like she was the dance queen of the show. Oh yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
look at
Where
that.
are we? See, Blanca is over here on the bottom left corner. I'm the girl in the gray rebozo right to her left. And then Kevin, who submitted our question, is over there on the right-hand side with his little red bandana. Our little dance captain. That was so fun. I loved it.
Oh, such a good production. It's so beautiful. And don't worry, so many people cry at the end of runs. It's so hard to let go of a show sometimes, and you're just like, I don't want it to end. And that's why I think that's why so many actors jump into like shows so quickly because you're like, what am I going to do with my life? I need to be in something else.
Yeah, I cried a lot. I'll be back whenever we come back.
I can cry. No, I actually ended up joining towards the end of the sort of gearing up to performance. Rodrigo sent out an SOS, like we need a folklorico dancer. And I actually agreed to join as an understudy, right? And I said, I'll be an understudy. I think I can learn let me check out the dances. I think I can learn them, so that you have time to look for someone. And if you're not able to find anyone, then I'll be ready, right? I didn't want to commit to being on the show because of my life and everything that's going on, right? And I showed up to the first rehearsal. I think it was a Saturday, and I saw the dances, and I was like, okay, simple enough. I can figure them out. And so after the rehearsal, I told Rodrigo, okay, I can stay as an, I'll stay as an understudy. I teach folklorico at one of the local high schools. I was like, maybe I can check with one of my students and see if they'd be interested in doing this. And then the next rehearsal, I show up and, we're having a conversation. And he's like, so you're going to do it, right? And I was like, well, yeah, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. And then he stops. He's like, all right, everyone, we have a dancer, right? So I was like, okay. And so I was coming into the rehearsals. And so my expectation is I'm going to do the 3 little dances. And then when I'm waiting, I can do my homework and everything else I need to do. And then we're going through the rehearsals and blocking the scenes, and it's like, I need Pueblo, right? Like I need someone else, and Blanca, jump in there. And I was okay, I guess I'm jumping in this here, right? At one point I remember I'm like it's sitting in the corner just kind of watching what's going on, and Rodrigo's like, I need a Pueblo. And then one of the actors, Javi's, and he's like, you have Blanca over there. And I'm like, I'm trying to hide over here. So I ended up getting plugged as Pueblo in some of the pieces. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm doing this. And I think for me, once again, because I came in so late in the process, most of the scenes were blocked. And the first couple of times I was like, oh my God, like I'm trying to figure out what's going on and, trying to jump in place. And then they had the stage was like, oh, with tape striked on the floor. I have no idea what are stairs, what are platforms, what I'm trying to get on. I was just like, oh my God, like what did I get myself into? Right. And once we did like the very first like actual run through of the entire show, finally I was just like, oh, that's what's going on. All right, got it. I'm cool. I got this, right? But it was crazy, right? And to have to come in like, and I was a like, filler extra, in my 2 little pieces with the dance choreography. And I was like, if it's that crazy for me, like my level of respect for the actors that actually have lines and have to keep track of every moving part. I think that was one thing that I did really learn and appreciate. Like I said, I've been performing for many years, but I was a dancer, right? So as a dancer, you come in, you have your choreography, you just need to move. You don't need to worry necessarily as much about all the other moving pieces because everyone's moving together. In theater, there are so many different things that are moving simultaneously that you have to be able to track that I was just like, whoa, like my level of respect just whew, could I do it as a like ongoing thing? I don't know. I think I still enjoy dancing a lot more than I do the being on stage and the acting side of it. Although dancing does have an element of acting, but there's no talking. And then I had to sing too. I was like, what?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Everyone had to sing.
Yep.
Diane.
Oh, yay. Hi,
Yes, they
Diane.
are
Diane's our amazing production
absolute
manager.
rock stars. And Diane, you're also a rock star.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, she has your.
Thanks, Suzanne. I'll grab that from you.
Yeah, Diane's amazing. Oh my gosh, Blanca, you're so right. There's so many things, and Eva, you probably like have seen so many shows, like, but I think being back there, someone I forgot who it was. It might have been Rodrigo. But remember, Blanca, when they were describing the different gears, and they're like, theater's like a bunch of moving gears in the background, and when they meet together perfectly, that's what the stage looks like, and what everyone in front of the stage, like the audience, is seeing, like when they meet perfectly. And I was like, wow, like that's a lot. But I think it, like, similar to what Blanca shared, it gave me insight to what the team does more so, by like actually being involved in it, which was really important for me.
I like the gear analogy. I've always heard of it also like theater is a team sport. Everyone has to like put in their little 2 cents, and then you watch out for each other, you do everything together. Yeah, it must be such a weird thing. I forget because I've been in many shows, and just having been in theater for a long time now, you kind of forget that like there are words we use that are different. We just ask people to stand on a flat stage with a bunch of tape everywhere, and you're like, yep, that's a door, those are stairs, that's a sofa, and then you just look at it and it's a bunch of tape on the floor.
I
It's a
think that's like super magical because then you're like forced kind of to become, like step into like your like childhood mindset where you're like, oh yeah, I'm inside this house and it's fun. I really like it. And I imagine it creates some like good feelings for our audience as well.
It really does. As like somebody who just got to sit back and watch you all perform Macario, like I said, I'd never watched Macario before, and it oh my god, it was that feeling of like I've only had this feeling one other time, when I saw a show at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival years back, but it's that same feeling of, like, you're sitting and you're watching something that you didn't think you were ever gonna see on stage, because it was all these people that, are part of your community telling a story that is so rich in our culture, and it's just kind of like it was like this, like, bubbling excitement in my chest, and I was like I wanted to cry. If you can't tell, I'm a chillona. Um, but and I'm really introverted, so I don't know how I'm in theater. But it was just like this like bubbling sort of feeling, and I was excited. And when like the lights came down and like the dancers came on with the big masks, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then, it springs to life. All of the colors and everybody in the pueblo with like everything, everyone's selling and the wreaths. And it was just like a beautiful explosion of color and culture. And I was happy that I got to share that with my partner because my partner is not Latino. But he's like down for it. And so we're sitting in this packed house watching this amazing story that like I told my parents I was going to watch. And I was like, do you guys want to come? But they were busy. And they're like, oh, but we know the story of Macario. And I was like, how come I've never heard about it? And you've got like, there were these two women that sat in the seats next to us who just like we immediately started chatting, and then they had like a grandchild in their lap, and you can hear her like whispering the songs into her granddaughter's ear. And then like the call and response when like la mujer goes to get the turkeys and she's like, should I take them? And this lady like 2 seats away from me was like, take it, llévatelo, just steal it. I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
okay,
Diana did such a good job at like engaging the audience. Yeah, that part was funny.
Was that a common thing? I wanted to know if that, like, happened all the time.
I think in the first show, like, I think she was experimenting, and then after the shows following, then people were really responding to it, so she kept doing it, and they loved her for it. I mean, I loved her for it. I wanted to jump into the audience.
Yeah. Blanca, you're
Yeah.
muted.
Doing so well. No, but I was gonna say, if you remember, Crystal, because she wasn't necessarily doing that as a space to break through to the audience, but we had the youth show where we actually had
Oh, yeah.
elementary, middle school, high school students come and see the show during like a youth matinee. And that
Mhm.
was the show where like this, the kids loved that she actually had that moment with them. And
Mhm.
the energy of the audience was just like
They freaked out.
completely changed the dynamic of how she was handling that piece of the play. And I think that's part of what also it's important in theater, right? Is
Mhm.
that as an actor, someone that's on stage, you get to feed and learn from your audience and shape your character as you're moving along. So even if you see the play multiple times, you may not get the same experience because the energy you get from your audience is slightly different. So you adjust, and there is that dynamic
Mhm.
and that duality with your audience that I think it's so magical. And I'm gonna put in a plug. If we have any parents with kids 9 to 11, we've mentioned that we have the acting classes coming up, but one of the things that's really cool is that this class, right, they can be in this class and they might actually be able to get on to and be on stage for Don Quixote, right? Because that can be a way for them to then come into the auditioning system, get some experience, and be able to have the same experience themselves. And I think it's so important for youth, in particular, to have those opportunities where they get to play with space and each other and learn about themselves more than what they're doing, because it really creates a safe space for them to just experiment in a way that they don't get to do in their day-to-day life. So I do encourage anyone with kids, cousins, sobrinos, etc., that might be interested, maybe just a tiny bit. I encourage them to really join our classes and try it out. The worst thing that can find out is that they don't like it, but at least they know, right? It's not like I wish I had done it, because that doesn't really exist. So give them a shot. If we try to make all of our services very affordable to the community. Yes, there is a fee, but if you're a family in need and want to have access, we will work with you. And that's, I think, one of the beauty of
Mhm.
teatro, that we will try to make everything accessible. And the only way that we can do that is by the fact that we do have a really, a lot of very supportive communities. And having said that, if you still need a tax break for next year, make sure you donate. All of your donations will be tax deductible. We are a nonprofit organization, and all of those resources that we do get go back to the community. And I think that's, once again, what makes this community such a special space.
Yeah,
Yes, Blanca,
absolutely.
keeping us on track.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the youth and how we support communities that would like to explore theater. I know like my little sobrinas were, or my not my sobrinas, my little cousin Evelyn and her sister Eileen were interested in theater after they went to see the show, but they had no idea how to get to that space. So like the educational classes are a really great way to get exposed to that. And then on top of that, one thing that your donation also helps us do along the same lines of the youth is you help us put on a student matinee. So if Blanca mentioned this a little earlier, where we had multiple schools from the San Jose area, like Yerba Buena High School, Notre Dame, St. Leo the Great School, San Antonio Elementary, Del Roble Elementary, who joined us. I think it was like the best audience that we had. They were so fun. But they were so full of joy. I think initially they were coming in, they're like, "Well, what are we doing here?" And then once they were like in the show, they were just like leaning forward in their seats. And afterwards, when they left the venue and we were standing outside saying hi to them, the kids were so happy just seeing us and like waving to us. I think one of them shaked an actor's hand and he freaked out. He's like, "I'm never washing my hand." And I was like, but he was like that to say that he was like so excited and inspired by what the actors had put on. So So yeah, with your donation, we're able to put on those student matinees that are so important to our core values as an organization and how we choose to serve the community, which is by supporting our youth. So yeah, if you are able to, we welcome you to join us in that way.
Absolutely. That access is so important. Like I said, I didn't have that, and it could have changed my life like a lot sooner. And just seeing how some teachers like go out of their way to try to make it work, to take their students out to theater, and knowing that we're doing everything possible to provide that for our community is such a beautiful thing. And yeah, you learn so much. I mean, being part of the youth classes and the shows, you make friends, you gain confidence, you learn public speaking skills. I mean, like, we've all mentioned we're introverts, but like, you get on stage and somehow you just do it. But I would have never guessed that I would be working in theater when I was a child because I just didn't have those experiences. And I didn't have the knowledge that programming like this existed for people in our community. And yeah, it could just be a fun thing. You don't have to make a whole career out of it, but it's a great way to get involved with the local community and just to have a little bit of magic in your life through
Yeah.
art.
Yeah, there's also like I won't get too deep into this, but I recently learned something from like a scientific perspective where like there's a part of your brain where it's when it's stimulated creatively, it helps your like critical thinking skills. So
Yeah,
like if you want to get into the science of it, like there's also a health benefit that could maybe be made possible for our youth and even for folks who attend shows, because having that creative part of your brain constantly flowing will help your critical thinking. So I want to toss
yeah,
that in there.
absolutely.
um, the other thing I wanted to mention too is along with the student matinee and the classes that we offer, another thing that our supporters donations really help us out with is the choose your own price ticketing program. So when I first started going to shows at Teatro Visión, I was introduced to this concept and I was like, oh my gosh, like really? Like this is affordable. Like I can go to these shows and I didn't have to pay like hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go to a theater performance, which was great because I saw many people from my community who were able to step into these spaces that historically weren't made for them. And so now like they're reclaiming that and accessing those spaces where each of us belong. And so by having this option for folks to choose their own price ticket, we're able to do that. And so, again, if you're able to, we would love to have you join us and contribute in that way so that we can continue to offer that as an option to our patrons.
And if I can add, I think that, we've talked a lot about the actual theater productions and being able to come and enjoy quality theater productions, for communities that often don't have access. We've talked about our youth productions and, and the actual shows and putting them on and the classes. But I think another important thing that teatro does that a lot of people don't necessarily know is that we do also are part of the creative process, right? We are premiering pieces of theater that haven't been seen before. One of the ones that I think I'm super excited about that we were able to do was the collaboration with La Quinta, right? A theater company from Mexico City, where together with La Quinta, involving communities from Mexico and communities from within the US, we had everyday folks that were participating in workshops that really helped to inform what ended up being a theater production, right? Something that was brand new. And when I talk about really community being able to co-create with us, is that we are looking for those opportunities for the community to really be part of the creative process. I think, when we're talking about social justice, a lot of times our communities are consumers, meaning that the flow of resources is one directional, right? You're buying and you're not necessarily part of being able to tell your own story or being able to see yourself reflected in the things that you're having to consume and purchase. And I think that, when we're talking about really empowering community, building a skill set that is useful, giving a space where you can share your own story and then be able to see that story reflected back to you. I think it's so powerful. And sometimes we don't talk about that enough, right? It's a huge value added to our community that we think about the entertainment factor, but there's this other side that it's so important. It's just as important. And I think that's part of why teatro has been able to stay current for such a long time, right? We're not just creating entertainment, we really are creating this community of co-creation where we can grow and elevate not just the stories, but the values and everything that comes with it. And I think that's super important. And so I was super excited about Raices, which actually debuted last summer, because it was the final product of what was a 3-year project that allowed us to really work with community. And so so I think that if any of you got a chance to see it, you probably, it was something different. It wasn't like something that teatro has done before, but that's part of growing and evolving as a community, right? It's how do we elevate our own stories moving forward? And I think that was just such a unique and special opportunity for teatro and for our communities to really share in that story.
Yeah.
It sounds like oh, sorry,
go
Krista.
ahead. I was just gonna say that it was like it was different, but in a way that like made you think more intensely about like just people's experiences. Because if you were there in person, you also would have seen stories of people's experiences from Mexico, and so like it was very thought-provoking, which I think all of our work is intended to be thought-provoking. But this one in particular was very, very special in that way.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a very strong investment in sharing the voices of our community, of our people, because just historically, that hasn't been true. We haven't been, listened to. Our stories haven't been the ones that have been, like they haven't been sought after, and it's amazing to hear that this was such a beautiful co-creation with another wonderful theater group that was based out of Mexico, or is based out of Mexico. Yeah, it sounded like it was a wonderful production, and I wish I had gotten to see it.
Yeah, if anyone's curious to like learn more about it, we still have some information on our website that you can read a little bit more about the story of it and see what that collaboration looked like. So if you're interested in exploring it, that is accessible. But yes, you're right. It was a very beautiful story, very community informed, and it also just reminded me that the partera was also very community informed. When I walked out of that show, the first showing, I hadn't realized that every story that was being performed on stage was from a local San Jose community member. And so it like kind of hit me like, oh my gosh, like these were really powerful stories. Like that could be my neighbor that is, whose story is there. So yeah, I think it was the same for this one. It was just very special and very powerful.
Yeah. I love that all of our programming is so rooted in like it's of the community, by the community, and for the community and beyond. We're just giving that space for these stories to be told and for our community to be involved, which is
Absolutely.
always so special.
Yes.
Oh, yes. This is.
Thank you, Susana. Oh, qué bueno. Ah, sí, la película. ¿Y tú quieres saber? Oh, I love it. Gracias, Susana, por acompañarnos. La película Macario was the first film to get Mexico a nomination for an Oscar.
Really?
And we are I think we're the only theater company outside of Mexico that is able to produce that production. So me da mucha alegría that a lot of people were able to come and join it and see it because it is pretty special. Like I just love it so much.
And the online access was also really great because my parents,
Yeah.
like I said, my parents didn't get to go, but then over Thanksgiving, I was like, okay, mommy, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna watch this, and she was like, oh, okay. And then the kids run in and singing the songs, and I started
Yeah.
rehearsing on the couch. She was like, oh,
Oh.
cantábamos cuando jugábamos de niños, and I was like, I didn't know you knew that song. That's so cool.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a really good time.
Mhm. Were there any other questions from our friends out there? Anything that you'd like to know about us or Teatro Visión, or any comments, anything? If you're out there, wherever you are, the audience is so enthralled with or inspired to engage and express how they're feeling. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's a really great feeling.
Symbiotic.
Mm,
Great word for that.
Yep.
yeah, that is a good word.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the student matinee, that was a wild show. I loved it so much. It was so good. I love how happy they all were. They just looked so inspired. Hmm.
And while you're thinking about potential questions or other comments, I do want to just make a quick note from our, back end fantastic technical support, Jacob.
Woo!
For those of you that are interested, we do still have educational access to Stream Raíces. If you weren't able to catch it, and also the Partera, which by the way is also was a world premiere of Teatro Visión. It was a work that was developed actually kind of as we were putting it together, and it is by a local new playwright. So you once again supporting local artists in their pursuits is kind of part of what we also try to do. But yeah, the Partera also was a fantastic show that we were fortunate to be there when sort of the story came about. And I think the story actually initiated the conversation during an Hora del Mitote conversation between Rodrigo and the playwright. That she shared that she was kind of working on developing something, and it sort of evolved from there. But like I said, we're fortunate to have been part of of that story as well as it finally saw a stage.
Mm-hmm. How can our educators get access to the performances? Should they reach out to us on email, or what's the best way? Is there one of them? Oh, thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
We love you.
I really do. You're such a great help. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And for those who
Okay.
do not know, Lee was actually our former managing director for over the last, I don't even remember how many years, but she's been involved with theater for a very, very, very long time. And
Yeah.
we're sad to see her leave, but very excited for her as she move on to other things. But even happier when we were able to get her to join the board. So she's still with us. We're still able to capitalize on that great talent and everything that she brings to Teatro Visión. And we're super excited also to be able to move on to our next chapter and see what other exciting things we can do, with Teatro Visión.
Absolutely. And I just saw that our beautiful friend Jacob let us know that for educational access, you can go to the student matinee page on our website, and you can request access there. I think it can be paired up with a couple of different lesson plan topics now that I'm thinking about it, or even just like an experience for your students. So reach out to us and we'll be glad to help you and help bring these experiences to your students.
Also, on that note, for my educators out there in the audience, so you can start planning your spring semester, Don Quixote, please correct me if I'm wrong, Yvette, but Don Quixote is slated to be on stage, I believe, in April. So you can start planning your field trips. Keep an eye out for once those tickets, those announcements go out. I know a lot of the high school classes read Don Quixote as part of like their AP Spanish classes. It's a great way to then also be able to bring your students to experience it on stage. And it will be our wonderful youth cast that will be actually on stage this time around.
Yeah. So Don Quixote runs from March. It's on March 30th through April 2nd. And then also there is going to be a student matinee for Miss You Like Hell at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, and that will be February 25th. So get on those dates.
Yeah, it's like back to back, February then March through April. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I think what better way to kick off the year than by exposing our students to great art. So yes, check out our website. All of our info is on there. And I think we're coming to a close soon. But before we start to close out, I just want to thank you, Yvette, Blanca. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you to the entire team. This year was fast. It was really fast. It feels like, how are we ending? So just thank you all for your contributions and just for the love and passion that you put into Teatro Visión. And thank you to all our friends in the audience for supporting us. We love the work that we do, and we want to continue to support you with what we offer. And so just thank you so much for your continued support throughout the year.
Yep, I second that. We're gonna plug that donation link one more time. So please find it in your hearts to give us a little bit of something before the year is over. Absolutely appreciate that. And yes, thank you so much, Cristal, Blanca, and Jacob, everybody at home that's watching. I've been here for about a month now, and it feels like I blinked and it's passed. But I'm very excited. I'm very much looking forward to all of these amazing and exciting things that we're bringing for everybody. Yeah, it's just a whirlwind and a beautiful time.
Yes.
And speaking of time, I know we're wrapping up, but just everybody, as we're coming in this winter season where we're celebrating all sorts of celebraciones and fiestas, we wish you all the best, not just during the season, but for the remainder of the upcoming year and then all the years to come. I think that it's such a special occasion for us where we can really think about family, and we hope that if you aren't already, that you will be part of our teatro family moving forward and really be part of and get plugged into this community that has just such a unique and such a special energy and with the work that we do. And there's a lot of opportunities for you all to get involved. You can come watch our shows. You can participate in our classes. Maybe you'll be one of our volunteers during one of our upcoming productions. I mean, there's lots of opportunities. Or I believe we're also looking for board members. So if you're looking for an opportunity to contribute to a local organization, some of your talents and skills, Teatro Visión, we are, I believe, looking for new board members. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to chat with you about this amazing opportunity. Maybe you'll be part of our group as well. Kevin, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, you can email us at board@teatrovision.com or .org. Aw, yay! Y'all, Kevin, you're awesome. Yay. Thank you for being with us. Yeah, and I guess I just want to say, I know this time of year can be a little tough for some of us, so just make sure you take care of yourselves. And again, we as an organization are here to support you through what the work that we provide and the art and creative outlets that we share with you. So we hope that you'll join us in the coming year and share space with us.
Yay! I'm very excited to meet all of you. Out there, everyone out there. I'm really excited to get to know more of our community, more of our patron base. And yeah, be gentle with yourselves during this wonderful time. But as Cristal said, we know that it can be a little tough for some people. So remember to be gentle with yourselves.
And we'll be here to welcome you with open arms in the new year. So thank you so much, everyone.